The train car was a battlefield of noise and movement. Three children, all under 10, were running up and down the aisle, shrieking with laughter, their small feet pounding against the floor with reckless abandon. One of them climbed onto a seat, using the armrest as a springboard before launching himself into the next row, narrowly missing an older gentleman's newspaper. Another was swinging from the handrails pretending to be a monkey, while the third engaged in an impromptu game of tag, dodging legs and luggage with practiced ease. Passengers exchanged exasperated glances. A woman in a neatly pressed suit sighed loudly, massaging her temples. A young man wearing noise-canceling headphones yanked them off in frustration, his music no match for the chaos. A mother with a sleeping toddler clutched her child protectively, glaring at the unruly trio as if sheer willpower could make them vanish. And yet the father, if that's who the man sitting motionless near them was, did nothing. He sat slouched in his seat, eyes unfocused, staring out the window as if the world beyond the glass were more real than the one inside the train. His hands rested limply in his lap, unmoving, untouched by the disarray his children were causing. Murmurs rippled through the car. Doesn't he hear them? Unbelievable. Some people have no control over their kids. Should we say something? No one did. The tension in the train car thickened with each passing moment, passengers shifting uncomfortably, their patience wearing thin. And then, salvation arrived, or so they thought. The conductor stepped into the car, adjusting his cap with an air of authority. He moved methodically down the aisle, checking tickets, nodding politely, until he reached the father. The man did not react. "Sir?" the conductor prompted, voice firm but not unkind. "Tickets, please." The father blinked slowly, as if waking from a dream. His hands fumbled in his pockets, a mechanical search yielding nothing. He patted his coat, looked down at his seat, then met the conductor's gaze with vacant eyes. I don't know where they are," he admitted, voice hoarse. The conductor, accustomed to all manner of forgetful travelers, pressed on. "That's all right, sir. Do you have a receipt, an email confirmation?" The man swallowed hard. His lips trembled before he spoke again. "I just came from the hospital," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My wife, she died this morning." The murmurs ceased. The air in the train seemed to shift, growing impossibly still. The man inhaled shakily, as though he had to fight for every breath. "I haven't told them yet," he continued, nodding toward the children, who were still playing, oblivious. "They're happy right now. Just being kids. I couldn't take that away from them. Not yet." The silence that followed was absolute. The passengers who had moments before been irritated, judgmental, ready to unleash a storm of disapproval, now looked away, their faces drawn with quiet shame. The woman in the suit, who had sighed so dramatically, folded her hands in her lap and stared at them, as if seeing them for the first time. The young man with the headphones closed his eyes briefly, as if willing himself to undo his earlier frustration. The mother with the sleeping toddler clutched her child a little tighter, but this time, it wasn't in exasperation, it was in understanding. The conductor, usually so strict about regulations, stood motionless for a moment before clearing his throat. He reached for his notepad but then hesitated. Instead, he simply adjusted his cap again and nodded. "I understand, sir," he said gently. "Take your time." Then he moved on, without another word. The train continued its steady rhythm, the world outside flashing by in streaks of muted color. The children, unaware of the silent transformation that had taken place among the passengers, continued their game. And this time, nobody stopped them. Instead, the older gentleman who had almost lost his newspaper watched them with softened eyes. The young woman who had glared at them earlier now seemed lost in thought. Her irritation dissolved into quiet contemplation. The mother who had clutched her child now smiled, just slightly, as if suddenly grateful for the simple weight of her little one against her. The same sounds filled the air, the same laughter, the same thumping feet. But everything had changed, because now everyone understood, and understanding changes everything.